Hello and welcome into Emergency F, news and information on topics that shape the community foundation world. I'm your host, Eric Hozempa. Well, today we have a revisit. Pat Duffy, who is the co-founder of the Giving Block, is with us today. And thanks so much for dropping by again, Pat.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you back and just kind of check up on the Giving Block, see how things are. And of course, we'll answer the gratuitous questions as we always do. But real quickly, Pat's bio. Pat Duffy founded the Giving Block with co-founder Alex Wilson, creating a new fundraising category they called crypto philanthropy. After building the leading crypto acceptance solution for nonprofits, Pat and his team developed the largest crypto giving platform for donors, raising over $100 million in crypto for nonprofits. In 2022, the Giving Block merged with Shift4, launching a leading stock fundraising solution now used by over 1,000 nonprofits. Today, the Giving Block is helping thousands of leading charities, schools, healthcare systems, and faith-based nonprofit clients fundraise crypto and stocks, including Save the Children, United Way Worldwide, and St. Jude. Pat is a member of the Forbes 30 Under 30 class of 2022 and one of the 100 most influential people in crypto. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, sorry the bio was so long.
No, it's great. I mean, I would have cut it short, but I felt like it was perfect. I could read it, and I had a little hiccup there, but I'm all good. And so, first of all, kind of what are you listening to? Last time we had you on, you were kind of listening to something a little dark. So, just wanted to see what you're listening to: podcast, reading, or do you want to share a secret talent?
Oh, interesting. I don't have a lot of secret talents. I'll just give you a rundown on content I'm consuming, I guess. So getting into Breaking Bad, I started watching a few episodes back in the day and bailed on it, which was a huge mistake. Obviously, the show is amazing. So I'm in season 4, episode 10, I think, of Breaking Bad. Music still very much angsty music. I'm getting into I feel like in the era right leading up to, I think we were talking about like Marilyn Manson last time.
Marilyn
This is
Manson,
yeah, Band of Horses, Funeral, stuff like that.
Okay.
Radiohead. So still very, very angsty. Something I'll unpack in therapy down the road.
I'm so sorry about Radiohead. So our listener Chris will be so excited that you listen to Radiohead. I'm sad, but it's good.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean they're a great band. And then stand up. Getting way back into stand up. I love stand up comedy and just starting to watch some of the old specials that I like. Really catching up on it. And I feel like it's gotten a lot better. There's some cool people coming out right now.
Is there anybody in particular you're following these days? You'd recommend?
Yeah, I saw Shane Gillis live, and he absolutely killed. Like I'd say him, Bill Burr, and John Mulaney would be the 3 comedians I've seen like in a live performance kill that hard. Like he's that good. He's released one special now. He's definitely not for everybody. It's stand-up comedy. So I mean, anyone listening, take it with a grain of salt. But definitely struck a chord with me. He's super talented.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, again, let's kind of kind of start this a little bit, and presuming that everybody hasn't listened to the first episode where we had you on, can you just talk about the Giving Block a little bit, like how you were founded and what you're all about?
Yeah. So 2017, I was working at a nonprofit as the integration director, just kind of working across fundraising operations. And then Buddy, now turned co-founder, Alex Wilson, got me into trading crypto, read the Bitcoin white paper, had a political science degree, was kind of starting from scratch. I just learned about some of the like actual tech minded, the double spend problem getting solved, and just the immutable ledger, like blockchain, all this stuff is kind of my first introduction to it. And that was the same time, end of 2017, there was that first really big public bull run. There had been other ones in the past, but it was a much smaller market. That was the first, I think, kind of take over the world bull run for the market. And some big donations came out of that. So Ashton Kutcher went on, Ellen DeGeneres was making a multi-million-dollar crypto donation. There was like a $50 million gift that was given to a network of universities. I think it was like a couple $100 million in a matter of a few weeks. And we, at my nonprofit, weren't set up to take it. And I was just really into it at the time. So tried to get them set up. We did, Alex and I just put on suits and started sitting down with the nonprofits who took it, doing kind of like interviews with them to figure out like, how was your solution work? How are you doing it? And everyone was doing it differently and they all kind of hated it. They pretty much all set it up only when asked by a donor, and then were coached by a donor to set up like sometimes a wallet randomly that wasn't tied to an institutional exchange account. And then some nonprofits were holding the cryptocurrency against their will because they didn't have it. There were all these kind of intricacies, how to generate a receipt. So we saw kind of like a product gap. We wanted to put something together for the nonprofit I worked at originally. And then the second piece was when we talked to the nonprofits who had gotten crypto donations, we were like, what's next? And they were all like, what do you mean? What's next? We'll just be here. And if someone offers us crypto again, I guess we'll take it. It's like, you're not going to talk about this or see if more donors have it, or maybe
Or
it's
do
like
the
you were in the
promotion or the
news.
proactive ask and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there was no, like, they weren't tagging them differently in their database. They weren't asking young donors if they had this stuff. They weren't adding like a, hey, by the way, you can give us crypto stocks, et cetera. And during a capital campaign, there was no kind of ecosystem for it on the nonprofit side, trying to get better fundraising, and on the donor side, where you learned about the tax incentives or where you could give. So we just started building connective tissue, popped up a Wix site, built the first aggregator of nonprofits who took it, like just anyone we could find. And then we started working with nonprofits to set up this widget. We paid a developer overseas to make, and that was kind of our first product to help them take it, automate receipts, stuff like that. And over time, the first big win was 2019 with Save the
Mm-hmm.
Children.
Mm-hmm.
We got them to accept crypto using our solution. We started helping them actively fundraise. They had like 3 million followers on Twitter. And like the first strategy was pretty simple. We're like, can you just tell them that you take it? Like, crypto people love Twitter. Can you just post about the fact that you're like taking Doge and see if people like that? And of course they did. It was like their best performing social content. It's like they raised their first million pretty quickly. Um, and then from there, we're kind of off to the races. So today, now, last year we launched the stock product mainly because it was perfect timing for crypto market kind of dumping.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But every strategy we worked on with nonprofits, we just saw the same was true for stocks. Like, you'd be shocked. Some of the best nonprofits, it's like, do you think your donors know they can give you stocks directly, or are they just dumping it in a DAF? And they're like, we don't tell them ever. And we were just shocked. So we popped that up last year, and then today, we have kind of the crypto fundraising ecosystem, which is a bit richer. We run Crypto Giving Tuesday. We have the platform, thegivingblog.com, which is the main place people go to give crypto to nonprofits, run the main campaigns, have the main kind of fundraising strategy team, and solution provider for charities on the crypto side. And then about 1,000 nonprofits use us for stocks.
That's pretty amazing, actually. And you just launched this like last summer, I want to say, with a stock product. Is that correct? It was
Last fall.
Last fall. Yeah, it's been pretty quick. So from going from 0 to 1,000 is pretty amazing.
Yeah, we added it as a feature. We weren't even going to make it like an offering. We were just going to turn it on for our clients because like it just makes it easier to not segment your donor database. It was literally just because they were asking everyone for crypto. Just like, well, you don't want to tell all of your donors Bitcoin all the time, like especially if they're older, it doesn't meet but if you can just say assets like stocks, crypto, it allows you to just plug this into everything. Thought it would just make it a bit more ubiquitous. And we just found out quickly, like all of our nonprofits, we were like, your donors know you take stocks, right? Like, do younger donors know about the tax incentive? Do older donors just dump their money in the DAF? They were like, no, yes. We were like, oh, well, I guess there's a very similar problem in stocks that there's been in crypto, and that nonprofits treat it like it's a donation method when it's like clearly kind of a donor demographic with a separate stewardship model.
And frankly, a lot of donors don't understand or realize the benefits to giving stock versus giving cash. I've always been surprised by that one. So yeah,
it's good. Pretty staggering. Yeah. Sorry, not to.
No, go for it. Go for
it. But younger donors in particular, I think we've kind of figured out. There's no data on this in particular, but just from talking to people, it seems like the bridge was broken by people investing on their own, like the disintermediation of platforms. So like Robinhood on the stock side, and then like Coinbase on the crypto side, versus working with a Schwab or a Morgan Stanley. Like it's kind of shifted. And then same thing with taxes, TurboTax, all of that other stuff. So people are kind of doing their own thing when they're on the younger side. So they just haven't heard of it. And if nonprofits don't bring it up as an option, and they're not working with a tax person or a stock investor person or a crypto, it's just like, where would they hear it? And I'm starting to think it's kind of a large, because of course, like stock and asset giving, when you look at like really big donations in the sector, it's like a huge percentage of it. Yeah. I have a feeling that it's like the aging donor problem in the nonprofit sector is largely due to the gap in tax literacy, and younger people just aren't thinking about charitable giving as like a tax efficiency tool because they're never in a conversation where that would be presenting itself.
Yeah, or maybe I kind of wonder if younger people are also thinking, hey, I can do this investing thing on my own. And I don't
Yeah,
need a financial planner or I don't need a wealth advisor or something like that. And so they're not maybe not hearing that as much. Maybe I don't know. It's
that's
really
right.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. So I want to go back to those early days. So you told me this when we met up in Chicago that you and Alex would go out in suits. And everybody who doesn't see this right now, I'm staring at Pat, and he's very casually dressed, and and back in the day, you thought, well, heck, we're going to go in suits, and we're going to be out there, and try to solicit people and get them involved in and the giving block and such. And so, what precipitated the desire to kind of shift the culture a little bit to maybe a more relaxed or laid back kind of look?
It was actually, again, kind of just business strategy. We kind of noticed that it worked better. I think it's sometimes a bad piece of advice younger people get where they try to like, dress for the job you want. And there was something about it. This is again, highly theoretical. I have no data to support this, but when everyone's in a suit and you're, 22 in a suit sitting there with your tie all tight, like you just kind of look like an intern. And I don't know if this is true or not, but like when you come in a t-shirt, the
Yeah.
impression that we got was people were more like, oh, maybe they know something we don't, like they've broken out of the matrix kind of thing. And it seemed like when you're talking about technology, there's something about, I don't know, scuff shoes and a t-shirt that makes people who, have to wear a collared shirt every day into work want to buy in. It seemed to be actually more effective in a way that's kind of counterintuitive. So I do think there is something in younger people dressing like they're younger. I think there is something to it where people will maybe find their innovative ideas a bit more compelling.
Well, if you think about it too, I mean, I think about like you're a younger guy, and if you come in dressed in a suit, I think, God, how innovative is he? How tech savvy are you? How are you forward thinking? And I'm guessing if you kind of come in there and look like a software developer or something like that, then you kind of fit the part.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
I didn't earn it. I don't have a finance background. I don't know how to code. So, but I do think it's visually more effective for some reason.
It's funny. So, how is the Giving Block doing these days? I know you just talked about the 1,000 nonprofits for the stock solution and such. Like, how's the environment right now for kind
Yeah,
of
the environment.
what you're doing?
Yeah, the environment was brutal last year, but we
Yeah.
had, arguably our best year ever, which is kind of like we're releasing our annual report. It just didn't come as easily. 2020 one just felt like because we built so much into SEO for like 3 years and just waiting for it to pay off during the bear market. Like we had SEO'd every nonprofit comes in when there's active search, when there's interest in the category, when there's buy-in. Same thing with donors. Like everything just flowed. We created Crypto Giving Tuesday. We created the Crypto Giving Pledge. Like the entire ecosystem of value from the donor and the nonprofit side, all the resources, the industry report at the center of everything. So like the flows were great in 2021. In 2022, it was like pulling teeth, trying to get nonprofits and donors to talk about it. Again, donors had massive incentives. They just weren't thinking about it as much. Like if crypto Bitcoin, goes down to 17K a unit, like it was at recently, and now it's at 28. Like that's a massive appreciation. If they bought any at that bottom, like it doesn't need to return back to the all-time high. It's just kind of like the math of it. So all throughout the year, all that volatility led to big moments where donors could give, and they did keep giving. It was our second best donation volume year in the platform's history. And we ended up adding more nonprofits than even in 2021. We added over 1,000 charities to the platform for the second year straight.
Nice.
But it was way harder versus like people would just come and it's like, you obviously understand this is a big deal and a thing that's happening where the world is going and you should probably take advantage of it as effectively as possible. And they were like, yes, absolutely. And last year we were like, please look at the data. Please. And they were like, eventually the ones who did were like, oh, nonprofits are still getting donations. The user base has grown through the bear market. More developers are building now than ever. It's like, oh, interesting. Like tens of millions of dollars continued to get donated. I thought this thing was dead and we had to just fight that for a year. So it felt very exhausting and defeating. I know some people on the team had some burnout, but we turned it into arguably, our best year.
So are there some things you'd tell to the audience as far as maybe some misconceptions, because like you said, it was kind of a slog last year, And part of that is probably obviously due to FTX. Is there any sort of thing you would probably advise nonprofits? Maybe there's a misconception around, crypto that you'd like to maybe dispel or reassure or something. I'm just curious to know what sort of advice would you offer?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Um, it's largely the fault of experts in crypto, but I think nonprofits have a very warped perception of what it means to like get into crypto, quote unquote, like what the first steps ought to be. Um, so the main thing I'd want nonprofits to know is like accepting crypto is not investing in crypto at all. So like our solution just automatically sells it for cash instantaneously, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's 24/7 markets in crypto. Um, so like the price volatility or like concerns about which crypto will go away or which one will be classified a certain way or what will be the hot one in a particular year, it shouldn't really matter to a nonprofit. I know they think they should. They're like, which crypto should I take? What are the most important ones? What happens if the price goes up? If it goes down, where is this going? It's just like, in short, hundreds of millions of people have it. And even in a year like last year, the user base grew. It's not going anywhere. And so long as it's a very tax incentivized mode of giving, and like now it's close to like 90% of millennial millionaires invest this way. It's just like you just have to take it. Now, if you want to hold it or if you want to use it as a transparency transfer program, like across international borders for like remittances, or if you want to like launch NFTs, like I think they see all of these things happening, or feel like they need to understand blockchain. Um, and it's completely unnecessary. Now, if you want to, I don't want to dismiss people at nonprofits who want to learn more about it. It really is cool. And there's a lot more you can do than just accept something that automatically sells. But it's more just acknowledging that other people are choosing to invest this way and choosing to build this stuff and get into it. And it just grows every single year. And it's a dominant enough force kind of in investing and giving that it's not a thing you can kind of look away from. So if you don't want to invest in it, fine, but to not be accepting it or making it clear as an option to your donors once you're like at a baseline, okay at fundraising and okay at the internet, like it's become a baseline thing that just a nonprofit needs to be able to do. So that's the main thing. It's like accepting crypto donations from investors is not the same as investing in crypto. Like people are choosing to take this risk whether or not you like it. Opening yourself to their tax optimized giving method and then just getting cash in your bank account is like it's a much simpler proposition than I think nonprofits give it credit for. But there is definitely like a lot still going on in terms of the regulatory landscape, who wants to own what category, what crypto will be classified as what, how it's going to get treated, how the US will treat it versus other countries. Like it continues to grow, but for a nonprofit, the tax incentive is the same as stock. So as long as someone's investing in some cryptocurrency, and right now it's a lot of people, might as well just let it hit a wallet and turn into cash.
Well, your comments about kind of the valuations about different cryptos is kind of interesting to me. It's like somebody who invested in Blockbuster back in the 80s and then saw it just plummet, and would we worry about, from a nonprofit standpoint, if somebody wanted to donate Blockbuster to us back in the 90s when they were probably at their highest and whenever they went out of business, before they went out of business, it wouldn't have mattered. We still would have just accepted it anyway. And it didn't matter if it went up or down. We just accepted it. So I think we kind of talked off air. I think the term currency kind of hurts it because I think it's kind of I understand that it can be treated as currency, but I think for a lot of people, that term just throws people and they go, wait a minute, it's not currency and it can be used as currency. But I think that freaks people out and they think they're investing in it. And again, like you said, aptly, that they can decide if they want to invest in it, but generally accepting it and turning it into cash is generally what nonprofits do.
That's exactly right. And then per your comments about like, it's called cryptocurrency, like the name just doesn't do it any favors whatsoever. It has features of a lot of different just types of assets, right? It has features like stocks and that people speculate on the value, and it transact into and out of different cryptos on exchanges, very similar to a stock exchange. And then it also has features like gold with this blockchain ledger for something like a Bitcoin, for instance, where you can't create more of it. It has a limited set supply in the original code that can't be changed. So if you're buying it, the scarcity is built in. So it's a sort of like long-term store of value. that it's actually usable. Like you can actually have it on a computer and like people can't take it from you. You can log into a computer somewhere else in the world and you're the only one who can access it. And then of course the currency piece, because you can send it in a matter of seconds anywhere in the world. There are certain cryptocurrencies called stable coins that are pegged to the value of a dollar. And some are pegged really well. And then some like come unpegged when people are experimenting with new technologies for like trying to get it to stabilize. And things like that get used much more like a currency, right? Like when you're trading into and out of a crypto, it's more efficient to go into a stable coin. People can send transfers like cash transfers at a set fiat currency value. The underlying tech for NFTs, for crypto, for all of these things is just, it's an immutable ledger, which is what blockchain is behind the scenes. And that just means you can't change any transaction records. If you own it, no one else can claim to own it. It's called the double spend problem. And since Bitcoin's origin, I mean, now we're getting close to, I think, like 15 years, not a single transaction record has been changed because of the way that system is set up. And banks pay hundreds of billions of dollars every year in fines for pretending money is somewhere where it isn't.
Yeah.
Crypto solved that, and some people are betting on it.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to tell everybody this, but the banking system is basically an Excel spreadsheet, so the cash isn't necessarily all there all the time. So how would you recommend people learn about this? Because obviously you're extremely conversant on it. And I think a lot of people fear what they don't know. So is there some resource you'd recommend for people to check out or something like that? Should they just call you on speed dial and ask you every question in the world? Anything you'd recommend as far as people getting to know about crypto a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm biased to our website, like thegivingblog.com, of course, just because we try to take like an analogy we use is like if you went to buy a car and they were talking about like pistons or like how a timing belt is rigged up, it's just like, this is why are we starting here? Like I think the main piece of advice would be like, don't start by learning about like blockchain and crypto, like how a block is added to like the Jade and like approved, and how transactions are authorized using like cryptographic proof of work. Like you can, and that's fine, but I would say just start your journey learning about the fundraising component, right? Okay, I accept it. What happens? It automatically sells for cash. It sells 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, instantaneously. Okay, that's great. So exposure to price movement is not something my nonprofits take on. Okay, updating my gift acceptance policy. Okay, where is it? Is it in other ways to give? Is it discoverable on my site? What are these crypto campaigns and platforms out there? How do I get myself in front of new people? When someone's giving me crypto, do I tag that differently in my CRM? Do I steward them differently? Is there a timing end of year? Do I appeal to them separately? Like, do I have to make pledges based on crypto price movement? There's all these considerations that have nothing to do with the underlying tech around what it looks like to just maximize your crypto fundraising opportunity with your existing donor base or using it to market and earn net new. That's where I think everyone should start. And then if you want to learn more about the tech, I think that's helpful to make you more conversational and just like a fun thing to be learning about, but it really should have no bearing on your fundraising strategy. I know a lot of people who are really into crypto and they're bad at fundraising crypto because like they learned about blockchain, but they, don't have
go down that
SEO.
rabbit hole. Go down that rabbit hole and they've gone too far. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't have the copy, they don't have the strategy. But yeah, I would say focus on learning what it means for nonprofits before you focus on like how does the underlying tech work. You're not going to study the Federal Reserve before you accept a credit card, right? Just because there's dollars involved.
No, I think it's a good challenge. I don't think everybody knows the intricacies about stock transfers, and nobody really looks at all that. Yeah. And actually, I would guess that if we put a poll up right now and we'd ask people what cash is tied to, they'd say silver or gold or something else, and they're wrong. It's supply and demand, folks.
So, yeah, they think the gold standard still exists. Yeah,
exactly. It's funny. So are you all going to be doing Crypto Tuesday again this year? Yeah,
we do Crypto Giving Tuesday every single year. It's a community campaign in partnership with the Giving Tuesday Foundation.
Very cool. And then when do you have the date in for this year? Or am I putting you on the spot? Don't know.
It's whenever Giving Tuesday is.
Okay, cool.
I have to look. I
just want to make sure. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, you see, you've made me a little ignorant there. I didn't realize that it aligned with Giving Tuesday, so I thought it was its own thing. So forgive me for that. But
no,
anyway,
no reason you should know that.
Well, you never know. Probably should know that, but everybody can put me, blast me on the podcast. So, and then as far as regulation, do you see things happening this year as far as regulation within crypto, or is that something you want to speculate on or not?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say which way it's going to go. It's more just kind of my general sentiment. It's, I think, very similar to other areas of industry. Like I feel like the US is becoming less competitive, which stresses me out a little bit.
Hmm.
I mean, I just learned it from again, I have a political science degree, not like a macro background. But a lot of people who work at the company are super deep on this. So like in the same way, I'd be concerned, like so many of our major companies already moved their headquarters elsewhere to not pay the tax rate here. Like when I hear about them like doubling the tax rate for like stuff like that stresses me out. I'm mostly just concerned about how long they drag it out, how difficult they make entrepreneurship in crypto in this country, just because we've had like a pretty good start here. And it's obviously like a really fast growing economic force. But I'm not worried about it, I guess, for crypto overall. I worry about it in the US if people really drag their feet. Or someone like a Liz Warren. There's certain people out there who just fundamentally don't understand how it works, and they're pushing some wild stuff. But there's certain things that just I think make sense. But I think it makes sense for banks too. Like banks have fractional reserve banking, and then you see the run on the banks and how this stuff goes down. I don't think people are like banks are dead, but like this happens with FTX, where like they don't have enough money to pay out people when they're trying to do withdrawals, like which is how these banks went down. Like the same stuff's happening here, but I don't think there's a systemic risk to people like not using a bank anytime in the future. I more so worry about like if they try to do too much crazy stuff, it could hurt adoption in the States. It should be okay though. The user base even in the US over the last year has grown pretty significantly. So
yeah, it's interesting when you say you reminded me of an author, Scott Galloway. I listened to his podcast too as well, a professor at NYU, and he talked about how younger generations are probably more down on America. And so when you talked about less competitive and stuff, you're a young person. I'm just curious to know, is that kind of part of this? Is that you're just kind of down on the entrepreneurship spirit, or there's something there that you feel is lacking a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's usually someone's in one of the two camps, right? Either people are really upset about the degree to which capitalism pushes perverse incentive models in the country, and like they're angry about billionaires and how much value gets extracted from people at the top, like all reasonable concerns. And then there's people who are on the other side of it, where they focus on like how anti-competitive we're getting, like despite the fact that capitalism has like some downsides in the States, we're also just not becoming a good place for it. So we're getting all of the downsides of capitalism, but then also like pushing all the tax payments, for instance, into Ireland and elsewhere. So I feel like I have kind of a blended perspective. I have both of the bad America perspectives that like young people have, where it's either very more progressive or libertarian. But I'm not super. I think it's something we can dig ourselves out of. I just don't think directionally we're doing a great job positioning the country for economic success.
Yeah.
And that stresses me out a little bit just for what it means for the long term.
Well, and everybody can listen to our political podcast later on. We can talk about your political science. I'm kidding. We can talk about he's looking at me kind of shocked. What are you talking about? So let's get back to the giving block. So like, what do you got going on for like this coming year? Like, what are you excited about for this coming year?
Yeah, our stuff is kind of boring, but it's so important. We're trying
everybody, thanks for listening. We'll see you later. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to get nonprofits to do the boring stuff. Like when the market is hot, there's great things that happen. Nonprofits earn a lot of net new donors. Average donation size goes up. There's a lot of exciting things going on there. But during that time in 2021, like what we noticed is a lot of nonprofits stopped doing some of the basic stuff they used to do with us during the bear market that was already really paying off. Things like search engine optimizing their donation page, or like discoverability on their site, mobile optimization, announcing to their audience that they take things like crypto and stocks, integrating kind of passive snippets that assets are an option for donors for like repeated exposure, QR codes in a pamphlet at an event. Like there's these very light lift things that do nothing to change the way you fundraise, but you provide enough, you kind of meet this minimum viable threshold of repeated exposure to your audience. So like if someone in this audience has crypto or stocks, which is obviously a ton of people in every donor base, they fundamentally recognize this is an option for them. And for some donors, it can be more tax efficient. Maybe they should look into it. Like if nonprofits very lightly sprinkle that in with no Crypto Giving Tuesday or new campaigns or Reddit posts, a lot of half of our donation volume comes from that. Just nonprofits not running a crypto campaign, not joining our crypto campaigns, but just being like, do y'all know this is an option for you? And then some people are like, oh, that $50,000 pledge I was going to give over the next 5 years, it's a great year to give Tesla or Bitcoin, whatever. Like I'll execute it now. Like there's a huge incentive for me to do XYZ or upgrade my gift size. Nonprofits just don't do it. And a lot of our clients don't find it sexy. So I guess the big challenge for us is trying to make it sound more exciting, like this kind of maximizing the value of your existing donor base and like stewarding asset donors a little differently. There's so much money just left on the table from the biggest donors dumping money into DAS where it gets locked up or comes over in a couple of years. And then just young donors who just fundamentally, they've never even heard about this tax incentive. And nonprofits keep asking for $10 a month. They've got $1 million sitting on Coinbase. And all it takes is, a billboard pretty much that you throw out there every now and then to make sure people see it. And if we can get more nonprofits doing that this year, I think that'll be the single biggest driver of volume.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And then any plans for the stock giving tool? Anything new there or anything, any other products too that you're kind of looking at?
Yeah, we have peer-to-peer giving, which I think is interesting, how we kind of blend it across the different giving methods. Our parent company Shift4 does card for nonprofits. So like we're using that as kind of a net for young donors, which is kind of interesting. There's a lot of nonprofit platforms out there that are like card first that have added things like crypto and stocks as backup options, which is really ineffective. Not that their card solutions are awesome, but no one like thinks about giving $10 a month and goes, oh yeah, I forgot I can save $100,000 on taxes by choosing this. Like they wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people who are like, oh, I have crypto, I like this. And then they go to check out the thing that you're doing. They're like, yeah, but I don't want to have less crypto because like they don't know the taxes. So they give with a credit card there. And instead of sending them to your donate button somewhere else on the site, if you can get 30, 40, 50 people giving to you with a credit card on your asset page, like that's a great hand raise that they're interested in. They definitely invest. So you can target them with different appeals and upgrade them into major gifts. So using that as a net, I think is compelling. And peer-to-peer, now that we have stock and crypto, will mean when people do a crypto fundraiser, any of their friends, family who don't have crypto are getting hit on, card stock, et cetera. I think it's a good way to capture more of the donation volume across the audience. And then for the stock tool itself, as far as we can tell, I think we're the only company doing this. We have kind of the widgetized flow for young donors where they're just going to want to be able to, without getting anybody on the phone, in a matter of seconds, check out and transfer stocks to a charity, just like we do with crypto.
Awesome. Yeah.
Stuff like that exists. Like there's people trying to do innovative things that's just designed for young people. But we have a private client services arm that we work with some major DAF folks to develop. So you can have a stock page. You don't need two separate stock pages, one for donors when they're above a certain age or below a certain age. They can come there and there's the widget. Or if you need somebody on the phone or you're giving through like a charitable remainder trust, if it's complicated at all, you can call somebody and work through a more white glove process. I think having a stock tool that's not abandoning older donors who are used to kind of brokerage instructions on a page, while also making space for, someone who's 32 years old and like definitely isn't going to make a phone call to send a donation. I think it's going to be an interesting kind of hybrid approach that we haven't seen nonprofits using. And it should be able to, similar to the crypto thing, allow you to send an email to your whole donor base, no strategy, no segmentation. And when they arrive there, there's something that'll work for everybody, which reduces the strategic energy necessary.
So I'll get you out on this one. Is that really kind of the one thing that nonprofits should be doing is when you're talking about courting younger donors, and it seems like convenience is the big thing. Like to kind of what you're expressing is convenience, where it's instead of like that, I'm going to pick up the phone and, talk to the person, the green visor to help them transfer funds over and that sort of thing and go through that. It sounds like it's really convenience where I have a tool in front of me and I can make it happen now. I know that I'm a victim of that with my bank. I don't like to go to the lobby. I avoid it at all costs. So for me, if I can do everything from my banking app, it's pretty amazing. So I'm guessing convenience is probably really important to younger people.
The requirements are getting absurd, right? Like how much is expected from an app, how quickly they need to adapt the user experience. Like when swipes become more common for the same feature that used to be a click, like all of this is very kind of subconscious stuff that's happening. But checkouts have gotten so efficient, like people just sending money with Venmo and all that stuff, like nonprofit gift acceptance, and then their fundraising strategies, of course, like trying to call somebody and sending them like paper mail, like all of these things are still good for older. I'm not dismissing it as a strategy.
Yeah.
But yeah, for younger folks, it doesn't worth their way at all. And then the other piece is like privacy rights are a lot more important to younger donors. It's not like we thought it was a crypto thing in the early days because people always have concerns about like anonymous crypto giving, which is a bit of a misconception. Like they still need to use a passport or driver's license to get into and out of an account. They're just not telling the charity their address so they can get a Christmas card. But those checkouts are really important too. Nonprofits are so data driven. Like if I see a form that's even the one on our side, like we have to update it. There's too many fields. I just saw in our checkout flow. Like if there's a certain number of fields, I won't do it. If someone asks me to send a check, I cancel the service. I canceled a life insurance policy recently. They were like, you have to send a check to reestablish this. I'm like, I'm canceling. If this is this kind of like, this isn't the last weird problem I'm going to have with you with like paper documentation. I just can't accommodate that level of inefficiency. So for real, younger donors in terms of mobile optimization and how few steps it takes to check out discoverability on your site. If nonprofits don't take keeping up with that seriously, they're going to get ditched.
Yeah. Finally, one more plug. Give us the website again.
Thegivingblock.com.
Awesome.
Best site ever for
fundraising. I will tell you, I'm going to give you kudos for that. Certainly about learning about crypto. It's awesome. And not only the other services you offer too as well, but just really awesome for people to check it out. So Pat, I just want to say thanks so much for joining me again today on the podcast. And I hope you have a great week. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me on. All right. Thanks a lot. All right. So we're going to roll over quickly, pivoting over to some announcements here real quick. So a couple of things again, I've kind of mentioned a few of these things before, but the Leading Locally Council on Foundations Conference is June 13th and 14th. So registrations are going on right now. And so we're getting close to June. So you probably want to register right now. The annual National Conference for Growing Community Foundations is accepting proposals. The event is going to be in person at the Wichita Marriott in Kansas. And that is, of course, in Wichita, Kansas. Conference dates are October 18th through the 20th. And you can submit your proposal by April 7th of 2023. As always, I thank you all for listening. And we thank Andy Epler and David Cutter for our music. Find us where you find your pod content, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple. Reach out to the show at emergencf@gmail.com and let me know if you have an idea for a guest or a topic. Love to hear from you very much. Thanks so much. Have a great week.